Alright guys, sorry I haven't been around in a while. I don't think I made a video in like 2 weeks already. So this is a project a lot of guys are going to really like. This is an L29 Big Block Chevy. It's a swirl port, guys. And in all honesty, it flows better stock than I expected. And I mean, the exhaust ports kind of hurt, but the intake really isn't bad. Now, it does have Ferrea valves. They're 2.065 intakes and 1.725 exhaust. I think they're both 50 bigger than stock, but the customer got them at a good price, and I'm like, you know what? It's not a big deal because these seats aren't great anyway. I can clean the seats up and use a little bit bigger valve. It'll work out. So what we did today is this is our good port or our long port. We tested this one. I did forget to squirt the Dicom, but when you see the swirl numbers, you're going to know it's a extremely active chamber, okay? Now, every time I do big block stuff, I have to discuss a couple of things about big blocks that I just can't stand, okay? And I don't know if it's my autism, my OCD, whatever it is. I don't know. I got a whole bunch of stuff going on that I didn't know I had my whole life. But the way this one turns to the wall like a Ford, and this one turns to the open chamber, they're going to have completely different swirl curves and burn rates. Now, what I've heard is this one doesn't flow as well, but it uses the air better than this port design. This port design tends to throw more out the exhaust port, okay, which is an interesting thing. I mean, if you really wanted to, they really need different cams, right? This needs a different intake lobe than this one does. But we're not going to get that crazy into it. I do want you to take a look at, let's go right over the edge of the engine, the block, the head. I need to eat. Sorry, it's getting late, but I wanted to get this done. See the angle of that fin and the angle of this fin? Interesting how they did that. Okay, now is it the exact same number of degrees as the ports are turned? It's a good question. I'd like to figure that out, actually. It kind of looks like it is, right? If this is the outside wall, right, it's basically a 90. And this is our outside wall. It's basically a 90. Okay. Now you can see I already started doing some work on some of the ports, but I did leave one completely stock. And I'm not even going to flow this one because this one's going to flow less than this one because this is our good port. Let's take a look at some. Actually, this one itself was machined really nicely. It doesn't have a huge notch. A lot of the other ones had 100 thousandths ridge here. Okay, so this one is definitely one of the better flowing ones. The exhaust, you can see it's got a bunch of in and outs and ups and downs and very wide seat. The chamber is rough. We got lots of machining out. Now, as far as I should state that this is about a 100cc chamber. Okay, most big block Chevy open chamber stuff is more like 120. So I will probably radius this out more like DV, and we'll lose a few cc's, but I think it'll make that exhaust port work better. The exhaust port's pretty hurting. Now this is a much smaller exhaust port. And you know what? You see how huge this bung is? You can't machine that all out, guys. There's water under this. Okay? So you can minimize it a little bit, but you're kind of stuck with it. Okay, for those asking, those are not peanut ports. Those are large oval ports. They look extra wide. I'm sure I have an oval port gasket somewhere, but they may be a touch shorter than my modified 781 oval ports that have really big valves. They're done for a 502. I've got two sets. One's a 2.25 intake, the other one's a 2.3 intake, which can be done on an oval port, and they flow. I think I got them around 360 and change. So they'll make some power. You can see, obvious different shape of the ports. From your good port on the left, or your long port, and your short port on the right. Okay, looking down at the good port, overall the casting looks really good as far as our short side and so forth. The paste ooze line on quite a few of these ports was really deep. Now, if you don't know what the paste ooze line is, it's where they put the two pieces of mold together with glue, essentially, and it squishes out between the two. Well, it doesn't get any iron there, so you get a deep area right there where there is no iron, and it looks like hell. And if you're going to port heads, you can't just leave that line. It's not going to look right. Now, is it going to hurt flow? Not really. Okay, if you're doing something that you're really trying to keep the CCs low, just go over it, take the lumps and bumps out, and you're good to go. Now, you can see on the roof that the good port, or the long port that we're working on, has got a big lump where it has a rocker stud comes down. You can machine that out, but since this port flows better than the other port, you might be better off leaving it. I just kind of smoothed out the other ones that I worked on, and we're going to see how it. We're going to see if we can get these to flow relatively even without going off the deep end. This is not a 50 cut type of job. I'm trying to get this done before I go in for surgery, which is coming up soon. All right, so let's move over to the other port. Okay, so this is our short port, or not great. Let's just move the light a little bit. Maybe you guys can see better. Okay, you can see how good that short side looks. Just this cast really isn't bad, and I don't think it's going to need a ton of work because the air speeds on the short side were pretty good. Now, as I get it flowing better, I may have to do more work to it. But I don't know if I'm going to show every cut on this job, because every time you put this monster on and off the bench, it's a horror show because it weighs. I should say that these are brand new castings. They've never been on an engine before. And the guy that dropped these off to me is also the same guy that bought the Red-Headed Stepchild project. He bought the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel. Heads, intake manifolds, all the TPI stuff. And he's going to break that up and use it on two different projects. But this is going in a 71 Chevelle, I think he said. 468. He wants it to look relatively stock. So he sent me a gigantic Quadrajet iron intake with it. Wow, that's impressive. Impressively heavy. But it works pretty good. We're going to show you flows through this port. And we're going to show you the flow on the exhaust. Now, off topic a little bit. As far as big block Chevys, I like this port. They shrunk it a little bit, right? They made it a D. They made it so it's not incredibly thin to the head bolt boss. There's actually some metal there. It's not ridiculously tall. It's not ridiculously wide. It does flow like crap. But we're going to work on that. And we're going to get some nice flow numbers out of this exhaust port. I think this exhaust port's going to tune up real well. And if we can get it to focus, you can see how deep those paste ooze lines are in the back of that port. They're really deep on this head. I'm not sure. Now, the head says GM on it, but I'll be honest, I don't know where this is cast. And it does have that black texture like the Pro Max had for marine heads. I know they do use this head on marine applications a lot. And it probably works really well because since it has the high swirl, it's going to make nice torque. It may not make as much power up top as a large oval port. I can pretty much guarantee it won't. But for what it is, it's a nice setup. I should actually say that the roof is pretty much in the stock location, but they raised the floor quite a bit, which is the right way to do it. I wish they did that more on the intake. They could have raised the intake quite a bit. Now, the way the head is cast, okay, the roof is right here, but you have this much room. You could have raised this up quite a bit, which I always thought was stupid. When they did the peanut ports, they actually made them extra, extra low. Now, somebody's going to say, those are peanut ports. Let's measure how tall they are. You guys can argue it out. Okay, 190, 140 height. Okay, this angle of the exhaust, you can see it is rough. The machining in the chamber is really rough. We have all kinds of lumps and bumps and deep cuts inside the bowl. All of that can be worked out. So far, I haven't found any thin spots, but this is not a project where I'm gutting out the ports and making them huge. We're gonna improve what we've got, type of thing. Okay, and it's going to be street performance in a Chevelle. It's gonna work out really well. In fact, traction's going to be a problem type deal. Even using this nightmare. Now, I did do a little research on this. This is an iron Quadrajet, but I believe it's a high-rise because if you look at the way this port is designed, there are other ones that the port dives deeper. So it's got a decent depth on the plenum. And I'll be honest, when I floated, I started to put clay around all these holes and everything. I was about 20 minutes into it, and I'm like, you know what, the hell with it, because it was just too much. So I actually floated open like this. So obviously that's going to take some CFM off. But as you can tell, the runners are really nice shaped. Okay, so GM did put a little bit of effort into this intake. Now, unfortunately, it was packed, and the box came. It was literally destroyed. This was all banged up. It broke the ends off, but I don't see any cracks or anything, so we're going to use it. Unfortunately, it's going to require removing a ton of iron out of this. Now, it looks like at some point somebody did do some polishing work on some of these ports. You can see some grinder marks in there. So the one we tested out of was number 8, which is the one I usually test out of because it flows pretty bad. It's an upper H, and it's usually pretty low. It also has, lumps and bumps and all types of things. Right, it's got that bung in it. But you can see somebody did some work to this, so it's not 100% stock. So let's take a look at what the flows were. We're already 14 minutes in. Sorry about the AC running in the background, guys, but it was 80 degrees when we started running the bench, so it's hot in here right now. Okay, how did we do? Well, not bad on the lower lifts. Now, these are brand new Ferreas. They do not have a back cut on them or anything. They came right out of the package, right into the head. Let's see what it's got. It tops out pretty decent. I mean, we're not great at 300, okay? 172 is not a great number. It did flow more than I expected. I really only expected it to go about 244, 250, something like that. It went a little higher than that. It went to 281, but it's going to be a street engine. It's only going to have lift right around 500 or 600. So we're gonna concentrate on getting the whole curve better, right? Now take a look at the swirl, because it is a swirl port. In fact, it looks a lot like the TBI screw ports that I did, right? Take a look at this 3,000, 35, 35, 35, 35, 4,000 RPM swirl. Very active chamber. Okay, now I did do the air speeds. I think I did these at 700 though. I didn't write it down. So these I did at 500. So there's a slight mistake there, but we're used to mistakes when I do a video. Got to have at least one mistake. It's no good otherwise. 241, 241, 231. Remember, it's a big block. It's got a decent size area there for the pinch to begin with. So the air is not blasting through the pinch. Not like a small block. Now, the roof is a little different because we've got that ramp in there, okay? So if you go on the ramp side, which is the center of the cylinder, and you go right to the roof, you got practically no airflow because that ramp basically stands straight up. Okay, so you only got 86. But at the bottom of the ramp, you got 246. And the other wall, you've got 264, because that's where they want the air to go to make the swirl around the helix. And take a look at our short side. This side's kind of dead, center of the cylinder, because it's got this ramp blocking the air. Okay, I do expect that side to go up quite a bit when I change the angle of that ramp a little bit. But as far as these other two speeds on our short side, that looks pretty good. Okay, so we take these numbers and we throw that insanely heavy Q-jet on it. It actually goes up, 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 almost the same, and it doesn't start losing till 300. Unfortunately, once it starts losing, it loses pretty bad. Now, after I port that, it's going to pick up quite a bit, but that's going to be a huge amount of grinding just to get it where I think it should. And take a look what it did to our swirls. It mellowed our swirls out. These are much more where I'd like to see them. As far as the exhaust, tops out at 170. Pretty crummy even if it was a small block. All right, it's a big block with a 1.725 inch valve. You put a 2-inch pipe on it, it flows 181. You put a 1 7/8 pipe on it, it flows 180. Pretty horrible. Okay, there is definitely power to be had working on that exhaust port. So how bad are the air speeds in the exhaust port? They're actually not that bad. Yeah, we're dead here, but from side to side, it's not awful. Remember, they shrank it up. So when you shrink it up, and then you wind up, when they shrink it up, right, you should have less airspeed difference from top to bottom because it's not as tall. And that actually works. It's not terrible the way it is. I'd like to pick up the floor all the way across. I'd like to get a little more airflow on this side. And I already started working on that, but I haven't flowed any of those cuts yet. Like I said, I left 2 ports stock because the valves didn't come in. So now that the valves came in, I can get some work done. I got Saturday set aside so I can do some serious work on these guys. And I think that's it. At almost 19 minutes, and I haven't had dinner yet. You can tell, right? Charlie's brain needs food. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night.